Avi Meyer's Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. All our shows are on YouTube, ntnm.org. Community policing is alive and well in the 24th District. The schedule is out for the upcoming year. Go to caps24.org. Jewish Chicago will be hitting the streets February 27th. If you go to the NTNM site, you'll find the links to the Jewish Chicago site, and you can navigate from there. It is judicial season, one of my favorite times of almost any year. The kinds of people running for office you find within the judicial community are a step above your ordinary alderman, state representative, etc. And I need less Q-tips for my interviews than I would with those guys, among other things. It is a pleasure to introduce you to somebody who's running for the Connors vacancy as judge of the circuit court, Kristal Rivers. How are you?
Nice to see you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in the city of Chicago. Went to school on the south side at St. Felicitas and then Kenwood. Then I went to Florida A&M for college. I left there and went to Drake, which is where I went to law school. From there, I went down to Texas to become a prosecutor. It was the first place I was given a job, and that's the area I wanted to be in. I prosecuted mostly crimes against children. So it was largely child abuse, sexual abuse, and physical abuse of children. In 2000, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, so I came back to Chicago. And I opened up my own firm, which I had from 2000 to 2010, or 2001 to 2010. I changed gears a little bit, and I began doing real estate closings, contract work, evictions, purchasing of businesses, and things like wills and trusts. And then I left there, and now I work for the Attorney General's office.
Ah.
I'm back in the area of prosecution, and what I do are civil commitments of sexually violent predators.
Wow. What is a civil commitment of a sexually violent predator?
There is an act called the Sexually Violent Persons Act, and what that does is it allows the Attorney General to commit a sexually violent person to a mental institution. In order for the person to be qualified as a sexually violent person, they have to be found sexually violent by, of course, either a jury or the court. But there are several doctors who put on testimony indicating that the person suffers from a mental illness, and that mental illness causes them to act out sexually. So.
Interesting. Yeah, we unfortunately had a couple of neighborhood cases in the last year of sexual predators, and it's always a sad, I guess, sick thing too, to say the least.
Right. Very true.
So, being a judge, is that something you wanted to do for a while?
I've actually been planning on being a judge for my entire career.
Cool.
I went to law school intending to become a judge. I had an uncle who was a judge that I looked up to very much, Adolphus Rivers, and he was a judge, and he talked about fairness and equality and justice a lot. And as a young person, I decided that that's what I wanted to do, in addition to being a lawyer. So I went to law school with the intent of becoming a judge. And in my practice, I've done so many things that are different outside of, from prosecuting to civil work to just regular transactional work to litigation. And in doing those different things, all the while, I've watched all the judges. I've been lucky enough to have over 200 trials.
Wow.
And anytime you have 200 trials, you're going before one judge before you even get to the first trial 5 or 6 times. So I've had an opportunity to sit back and watch how they all manage their courtrooms. I think I've seen some of the absolute best judges and some judges I would never want to be like. So.
No, that's interesting, because you do get an insider look. Maybe I should mention this, but you don't go into detail either, but you also told me that you were part of the Judicial Evaluation Committee, which is an honor of sorts for the bar associations.
Right. I've been on the Judicial Evaluations Committee for the Cook County Bar Association since 2009. I believe I started late in 2008, but 2008, 2009. And I've had the opportunity to sit back and see what's required in order to be found qualified as a judge.
Sounds like you're a homework person all the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, when did you start? Now you are actually the officially endorsed candidate of the Cook County Democratic Party.
I am. I have been slated in the Connors vacancy by the Democratic Party, which I'm very proud of. It took a lot of work, and I walked into so very many rooms where I did not know any of the elected officials, and I stuck out my hand and I said, here are my qualifications, and this is something I've always intended to do, and I'd like your support, and I was lucky and blessed enough to receive it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I mean, but that's still, it helps, but it's not a guarantee. At least you don't
Sure
have to
isn't.
gather, you don't have to gather your own petitions.
I certainly did gather several of my own petitions.
Oh, really? Oh.
I absolutely went out. I felt like that way, I'm 100% involved in me being elected. I still want to shake everyone's hand and introduce myself to everyone. So I go out every night. I go to as many events as I can possibly go to. I introduce myself to as many people as possible. Most people feel like they have no idea who to vote for. They get into the voting booth, they see names, they pick names they like, they pick their own ethnicity, they pick a male or female,
They pick who think is their own ethnicity too.
Well, that's very true. That's very true, because sometimes the names are a little misleading.
Extremely, and
right.
on purpose sometimes.
Absolutely. Some people have changed their name to popular Irish names in order for them to be elected, because
Yes.
the Irish tend to be elected.
Or married a good Irish person in order to.
Absolutely. that is what is done, and it's
And there's
common.
also Jewish names that, there's guys with names like Smith, who are Jewish, and there's guys with names like Cohn who are black. So you
Right.
can't always tell from these
No,
things.
you can't. And Rivers is nondescript.
True.
So, but I understand that voters never, some informed voters do, but so many don't go to your show or don't look at the newspapers or surf the internet to read our different websites to see what we're about and what we've done outside, in law and outside of law. So I try to get out as much as possible and introduce myself to people.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. I always urge people, start at the bottom of the ballot where the judges are. Because a lot of people, they're in a big hurry, and they figure, now, being a judge can affect you a whole lot more than who the governor is.
Absolutely.
So, listen, whether it's, your marriage or your money or
Who gets your children? Right.
Sure, and not to mention your freedom. So,
Right. You can go to jail for a traffic ticket. So the judge on the bench has to have really good judgment to make that determination.
That's true. I got a story for you, but off the air.
Okay.
In any event, so you're out campaigning. How many events do you hit in a given night?
Last night I went to 4. The night before last I went to 4. I find that 4, after that, because I work for the Attorney General's office, so I usually don't start until I'm off after 5. More than 4, I'm there so briefly that I don't feel like I'm really meeting people. But 4 is a good number.
Cool. Do you have a website?
I do. My website is www.rivers4judge.org.
www.rivers4judge.org. Very good. And you also have a Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page. Both my website and my Facebook page kind of give you a little bit more information about me. They also include the things that I've done civically outside of just being an attorney. So including pro bono work and working with the task force, the task force on human trafficking.
Kristal Rivers, running for judge for the Connors vacancy, officially endorsed candidate of the Cook County Democratic Party. We want to thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck in the election.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today, and bye-bye.